What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the overclocked pulse rifle. After this week's nerf, I'm going to try to let you guys know if I think it is worth going for after the most recent update. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful and informative, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down below if you think the overclocked pulse rifle is worth it after the most recent update. So with this week's update, they reduced the accuracy of the hipfire, so there's going to be more bloom to the weapon when you hipfire it. There's going to be more area where your bullets can go. This is just going to lead to you hitting less shots in theory. And then they also reduced the fire rate in hipfire mode. If you guys were unaware, the pulse rifle is like two weapons in one. When you hipfire it, it shot really fast. And then when you aim down sight, it shot slower but did more damage. So they made it less accurate with the hipfire, and they also reduced the fire rate of the hipfire. And this is very noticeable. Like, you could just shoot the weapon if you're someone who is used to using it, and right away you can tell that it's shooting much slower than it was. Not much slower, but it's definitely shooting slower to the point where you can like easily notice it when you hipfire it. I think it's still good, but I don't think it's like the undisputed best spray weapon in the game right now. Whereas before the update, it felt like the overclocked pulse rifle was one of the most insane things they had ever had in the game. If you didn't have it, it was like very oppressive to play against, and if you did have it, it was very difficult for anybody to play against you. It used to be just a menace at taking walls and getting shots through builds and build mode, but at this point, I think I'd rather have the twin mag SMG for pressuring builds. The main use of the SMG in builds is typically maybe to get some chip damage through walls. And then aside from that, I just use it to kind of like take walls and replace walls. And I feel like if I'm going to be trying to spray someone's wall to take it, I would just much rather have the twin mag SMG. That higher fire rate makes it fry builds much faster, I think. And in zero build, it can still be a fine swap weapon after using a Havoc pump. But at this point, the main advantage it has over the twin mag SMG, I would say, is just range. And since the Havoc pump itself has such low range, if you're using the Havoc pump and then swapping to a spray weapon, you're probably going to be like in the range where the twin mag is better than the pulse rifle anyway. That's why I've preferred the twin mag over the tactical pistol for most of the season in Zero's build. It's just because of the reduced range that the Havoc pump had. Like last season, I really liked using tac pistol and thunder shotgun because the thunder shotgun had such insane range that like the added range that the tactical pistol had was also nice. But the Havoc pump having less range makes it to where more often than not, I feel like if you're using the Havoc pump, the twin mag is going to be the better complement weapon. Before the update, it didn't matter. The fire rate of the pulse rifle was so ridiculous that it beat out the twin mag, I thought. But now the twin mag has a better fire rate when you hit than the pulse rifle, and I feel like the twin mag is just the better complement weapon for close range. The time where the pulse rifle I think really shines over the twin mag is when you're in more of those ranged fights, which doesn't happen that often because of the Havoc pump's range, like I was saying. But you will really notice this if you kind of like pump somebody and then swap to your spray weapon as they're trying to katana dash away from you. The pulse rifle is really good in those situations because you can hipfire it and hit shots when they're kind of close, and then as they get out of range, you can just aim down sights, and then it's fine at that as well. At this point, I think like the main value of the pulse rifle just is that versatility. If you want to only carry two weapons but also use the Havoc pump, I think the pulse rifle is probably the best weapon for that. And I think that is very valid with how the game is right now, because in zero build, since the update, I've mostly enjoyed just using two guns. That way I can have both the katana and the ODM gear because they're both really good mobility items, but they're kind of good at different things. And so just using Red Eye and Maven has worked really well for that for me. I don't really like the Havoc AR, so running Havoc AR and Havoc Pump isn't that great. I think if Pistol Amp was still in the game, then maybe running Tac Pistol and Havoc Pump could be good. But Havoc Pump and Pulse Rifle is still an insane combo. It's just not as ridiculous as it was before. So if you were able to get like Havoc Pump, Pulse Rifle, ODM gear, Kinetic Blade, and heals, I think that would be a really fun loadout to use. You could just be all over the place with your mobility, and then you also have the pump and the pulse rifle. It's just kind of awkward to procure that because, like I just kind of outlined, I don't think there is another like great just two weapon setup with the pump already in the game, and you're not going to get the pulse rifle until 4th zone. So are you just going to run like pump and pistol up until you're able to get the pulse rifle, or pump and Havoc AR up until you're able to get the pulse rifle? Because getting your hands on a katana or ODM gear that late in the game probably isn't going to be the most convenient thing. And then even then, you're so close to the end of the game by then that I feel like it doesn't really do you that much good to change your loadout up that much at the end of the game. In short, I still think the pulse rifle is still very good. It's still a very, very solid weapon. But I think at this point, the best thing about it is how versatile it is. There's no fight where it's just terrible. If you're very close range, it still has respectable like performance with the hipfire. It's just not ridiculous. And then at long range, it's still very good. I just prefer the red eye because I feel like I'm better with like the first person red dot based ARs than the third person ones. But it's still very good. It's just not broken like it was before. So is it still worth going for? I think it is to an extent. Like, I just like going on the island and fighting people. But if you're somebody who hated the island but just kind of felt like you had to go there to get it, or even if you didn't like using it, you just had to go there to stop somebody else from getting it, I don't think it's that big of a deal anymore. Like, you can play against this weapon, and I think you could beat it just fine. Whereas before, if you were playing against a pulse rifle, that was a problem. Unless the enemy like really messed up, it was going to be a difficult fight for you to win. But now I think playing against a pulse rifle in pretty much any range, whether it's close range or really long range, I think is very doable. I don't think it's the best at anything at this point. Whereas before, it was like the best close range spray weapon and then a very solid mid to long range weapon as well. And that's what's made it so broken. Now it's just kind of okay at everything. And I think as far as what this weapon is set out to be, I think that's a much better spot for it. Like these, like a weapon like this that's like meant to be versatile, I feel like should be, you know, as the saying is, a jack of all trades, master of none. It shouldn't be the best at anything. It should just be like, you know, a 6 or a 7 at everything. And I feel like it's probably like a 7 to an 8 at everything, but it's still very good. It's just not as like, it doesn't warp the entire game around it like before. So I think this update was very good. I've talked about how repetitive I've thought this season was, and I've even had people criticize that and be like, you could just not go for the mythic pump or not go for the pulse rifle. But before the update, those weapons were so insane that if you didn't go for them, you were just going to have a very hard time playing against them. And I don't think it's that much of the case anymore. I feel like you can play how you want. If you want to get the mythic pump, if you want to get the mythic pulse rifle, that's fine. But it's not like you need to like do everything to get your hands on those weapons because you're going to lose otherwise. I don't think they're that insane. They're just good. They're nice weapons to have, but they're not as ridiculous as they were before. But that is going to be it for today's video on the pulse rifle. Let me know what you guys think of it down in the comments below. If you think it's good, if you still think it's overpowered, or if you think it's trash now, let me know down in the comments below. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.